is Scott Winters. I want to thank the CODA Conference Committee for inviting me to come and talk to you today. The title of my talk is Software as Artistic Partner. I want to begin by addressing a little bit of a white elephant in the room. And that is, I'm going to spend my time talking to you about how easy and worry-free technology can be in your workflow. But no matter what I say, I acknowledge that sometimes technology can feel like this no matter how easy it's supposed to be. But that said, I know we've all conducted scores that kind of felt like that. So complexity and overwhelming sometimes is worth the effort. So the title of my talk is Software as Artistic Partner. I'd like to break it into two chunks. First of all, I'll talk about exactly that. What I mean when I say that we can use technology in our concerts as an artistic partner with us. And then I'm going to present the concept that this movement, this multimedia thing that's happening, this visual movement art form is not a passing trend. It's here to stay. And if that is the case, then it seemed to me that we should spend a little time talking about what it is and where, from my perspective, where it might be going into the future. And it's just my perspective. And when we're done, I'm hoping that there'll be three takeaways. Technology can and should integrate into the artistic process. Visual music is more than just a passing trend. And participation in this art form is becoming easier and more affordable. Two of the big barriers that have been out there for the past couple of years. Before we begin, a little bit about myself. Scott Winters, the founder and CEO of Ion Concert Media. By training, I'm an orchestra conductor. I spent 3 years as director of instrumental music at Bethany College in Mankato, Minnesota. I've conducted professional and amateur ensembles, and I spent 10 years as the executive director of a music conservatory in Minneapolis. In 2012, I was conducting an ensemble, and I started using multimedia in my shows, and I noticed that the audiences really responded well, but I got really tired of the technology getting in my way all of the time. I decided there must be a better method, and instead of just adopting the status quo, I went out and I hired a programmer. We came up with an idea, built a piece of software, and now I have turned that software. It's brand new. It's been on the market for 1 month, called Mosaic, and we've built a company around it called Ion Concert Media. I no longer conduct. I only spend my days building Ion Concert Media and trying to figure out how we make immersive concert experiences easier, more affordable, and above all, more artistic. So that's a little bit of an introduction about how I got here on the stage to talk about this topic tonight. Software as an artistic partner, the best way to jump in, I think, is to just talk about where we are in the industry today. As a conductor, when I look at this picture, I recognize it's a live event. I recognize that there's a control room with a lot of people standing around managing an entire rack of computers. And I'm able to interpret this as a conductor. I think maybe some of you guys can too. This is one of those events where the technology kind of takes over and pushes you aside as the conductor. Artistic flow is there. It messes with your rehearsal schedule. It rehearses with your production schedule. It just kind of takes over your life. So I call this picture a conductor's annoying because it's annoying. We stop doing the job we're hired to do, and we kind of become a slave to the technology, or at least we need to bow to the technology's restrictions. The next picture I call a conductor's nightmare. And I'm pretty sure we all recognize this. This is Sarah Hicks. Nope, this is not. Sarah Hicks is a consummate conductor, so this is about the technology, not about Sarah. Sarah's conducting the Minnesota Orchestra last spring in a concert of Pixar films, and she's wearing the dreaded headset. And in that headset, she's getting the click track. Click, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Her job as the conductor is to make sure her arm matches what the machine, what the computer is feeding her. Very annoying. I saw her conduct Fantasia live in November. Same hall, same orchestra, same conductor, I think the same headset. And of course, there were places where the sync was not that important, so she wanted to hear the orchestra. Oh, by the way, that's a double headset, both ears. So she wanted to hear the orchestra, not the click, so she'd take the headset off, put the headset on, take the headset off, put the headset on, and I'm not making up, at one point in the concert, She wanted to take the headset off, so she's conducting with her right arm and removing the headset with her left arm, and you can see she's got long black hair. It got tangled in her hair, and she's trying to untangle the headset and conduct. There were spots in that concert where it was more entertaining to watch Sarah Hicks manage her headset than it was to watch what was happening up on the screen. And my question is, how did we get here? We're conductors for hundreds of years. It's been us in our orchestra, and our job is to attain the highest level of artistic achievement. And then technology shows up, and all of that kind of gets brushed aside, and now the technology runs the show. How did this, remember, this is the Minnesota Orchestra, highest achievement level artistically, and yet they let this obstructive, restrictive technology onto their stage. It boggles the mind, really. How does this happen? I came up with some reasons very quickly, divide them into two categories: business-minded reasons and artistic reasons, why you might be able to justify having restrictive technology come onto your stage. The first one is very powerful because audiences like it and it sells tickets. You might even be part of an ensemble where your administration or board says you don't have a choice. You are going to use media because we fill the house every time we try it. Another reason, which is very applicable for this audience, is we want to stay current. As educators, we view programming from a very curricular viewpoint. Our job is to introduce our students to the best literature of the last 300 years. But I think a lot of us would also share a view of one of our responsibilities is to share with our students what's new and what's next in the world. So we want to stay current, and that would make a justification for letting technology come onto your stage as a way to introduce your students to some of the stuff that's happening out there in the real world. Those are business reasons. I think they're dwarfed, for me personally, they're dwarfed by artistic justifications for why the technology is important. We can argue about it all day long, but there are a couple of very valid, I think, artistic justifications for letting technology in your life. First one is fascinating to me. When you do a multimedia show, it seems like, to me, we're just walking in the footsteps of Richard Wagner, who more than 100 years ago said that he was going to use the best pieces of every available art form to present to his audience a production with the most punch he could muster. And I'm really quite convinced that if Richard walked the earth today, he would be embracing technology with all of its foibles wholeheartedly, because it does give you an opportunity to add some punch to what you're offering your audience. I'm not advocating for every concert, every piece, all of the time, but there are times when it just seems like there is artistic justification in using technology based on the idea that you want to give as much to your audience as you possibly can. A second artistic justification would be that we're not conducting the same audiences that our forebears did. And we can argue about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, the MTV generation, the 24-hour news cycle, social media, everybody gets blasted with media 24 hours a day. Whether that's good or bad isn't for tonight. We can have another conversation about that. What I'm suggesting is that we accept that that's where our audiences are coming from. When Haydn premiered the Surprise Symphony in 1791, he simply put a loud G major chord in the slow movement, and it was enough to cause feathers to ruffle, London papers to talk about it, and every music history book since then to talk about it. Today, that wouldn't happen. A composer putting a loud G major chord in an otherwise slow piece of music it's not going to have an effect. And is it good or is it bad? I don't know. But it's accepting the fact that our audiences come to us from a slightly different perspective. So it does seem that there are some justifications for technology. If we can agree on that, then the concept of using technology to deliver a product to your audience is very valid. But the application of how that happens lots of times falls down. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a show and I've wanted to see something on the right column and actually got something on the left column. To explain, you've got your music, and let's say for the sake of argument, it's a professional orchestra playing some of the absolute best literature. So you can't argue about the artistic quality of the music. And then you've got media, and for the sake of argument, let's say that the media is fantastic. So you've got two artistic components that are at the top of their game. But when they come out on stage and try to talk to the audience, they behave like this. I want them to behave like this. I tried to think of an example from ballet where the dancers and the orchestra behaved like this instead of like this, and I couldn't come up with it. It does not, I don't think it exists. It can't exist. The magic of a live event is the live communication that happens between the different artists on the stage. So in ballet, you've got one unified organic whole that's saying something that's live and relevant to the audience every time. But when we bring technology on the stage, this falls apart, and now you've got fantastic art and fantastic music saying kind of the same thing about kind of the same topic, but they may as well be in two different rooms. They don't communicate together. What we need is a blended way to bring technology. The technology needs to bring the music and the digital media together in a blended sort of a way. So here's our workflow in a multimedia event. There's all the components, and we, as conductors, we strive for artistic excellence on every step along the way, and we're falling down, I think, in one spot. We just let the technology push us out of the side, push us aside as conductors, as artists, and we're forced to be like human metronomes or something like that just doesn't have a lot of expression left in it. So what we need is software that fits our workflow, software that meets us where we are on stage and acts like an artistic partner, not like a tool that may or may not interfere with other objectives you have on stage. So we need software that is an artistic partner. And at this point, I think the best way I'm pretty sure we all can recognize what I'm saying, and yes, there is a problem and technology gets in my way all of the time. The best way to illustrate it, I think, is to introduce you, I'm not quite sure how that happened. We want to be right here. I want to introduce you to our new software called Mosaic. Again, it's 1 month, and this isn't supposed to be a sales pitch. I want to show you what it looks like when a piece of software works with you instead of alongside of you. It's 1 month old. It's been available as a free download on our website for the past month. I came up with it in 2012, almost by mistake, started getting asked to use it in orchestra concerts around the country. So it's been tested from coast to coast. It's been received very well. And I'm going to have Jay Allen come on up. Jay is our technology specialist at Ion Concert Media, and he's going to pull the software up and get it ready to go. So the idea behind I'm a conductor, and what I wanted was a tool that that flowed with me, not just in performance, but in rehearsal as well. So in performance, I want to be able to go 2 clicks faster tonight. I want to be able to go 2 clicks slower tomorrow. I want to be able to stretch that retard for an audience that's really with me, and I want to suck all the juice out of that last phrase. And I also want technology that can sit with me in the rehearsal hall and not slow me down. I mean, 2 hours is all we've got, and we need to be efficient. And the software does lots of software does fantastic things for us, but it does not meet us in our workflow. So I came up with this idea, and almost by accident, it turned out to mean that we can't remove the human from the process. The human is an important part of the process. You got it going? So we're going to throw the interface of Mosaic over to the other screen. Normally, this is what would be here on my laptop, and I would be projecting digital media up on the big screen where the audience would see it. But for tonight's purposes, we're reversing it so that you can see what the interface looks like. So, what we've got, I'm going to start playing this movie. What we've got is a score that scrolls from right to left across the screen. We've got a little output monitor that's showing what the movie is that's being seen by the rest of the audience. Oh, there's sound effects in this film, I'm sorry. Here. Volume off, there we go. And then the other important part of the interface is the red bar on the right side of the screen that's moving right now. And I'm actually moving that. I'm going to try to get help. If you can't hear, just let me know. I'm actually moving that with this iPad, and that's basically a video tempo scrubber, so that as I push forward, the score moves faster, which makes the movie move faster, and as I pull back, it makes the score move slower, which makes the movie move slower. And my job as the mosaic operator is to be a musician. When I set up, this is, by the way, the film that's going to be premiered tomorrow with Romain's Orchestra. When I set up with an orchestra, I usually stand with the double basses, eye contact with the conductor, and my job is to wait for the downbeat, and as the music starts playing, I start playing the media as if it was a musical instrument. I'm a French horn player by training. I don't make a pitch, I don't make a sound with this. It makes no music, but it's uncanny how musical I feel when I play this. So the conductor gives the downbeat, I start playing. Now I'm watching the conductor, making sure that my score matches exactly what all the other musicians on stage are doing, and I'm able to communicate with the conductor. We can say, let's move this faster, or let's slow this section down, and we're doing it in real time. So tomorrow night, Doom Spiro the movie might go just a little bit faster, and the next night it might go just a little bit slower, depending on how you're feeling as the conductor, and we've done all the testing. The movie does not move so fast that the characters become silly, or so slow that they become kind of like in molasses. We don't, if I stay in sync with you all of the time, if you watch the tempo slider on the right, I only ever go about that much. Only if there's a catastrophe do I wind up way down here or way up here. It just never happens because I'm always in sync. I'm constantly making small adjustments to stay in tempo with what you're doing. So we're gonna show you how this works. Is that ready to go? I'm going to play a little bit of Doom Spiro so that you see how it works in real time. Just tell me when you're ready. Ready? So that's mosaic. It's not, the interface is not exceptionally difficult. We've had fifth graders learn how to play this and run it in 15 minutes. In fact, we just came from Ricardo's dress rehearsal. The composer for this score is actually with us this weekend, Romain. Hello. And Romain was at rehearsal. Jay and I both had a version of the software running at the same time. Just in case my computer crashes, we've got a backup for tomorrow's concert. Jay let Romain grab his iPad, and within 3 minutes, Romain was playing this film in sync with the orchestra. So it's designed to be simple and easy, and surprised us at how musical it turns out to be. The rest of I'm going to pull the presentation back up. Okay, now we're back to this slide. The rest of my comments are going to make an assumption that as we move into the future, technology is going to fit our workflow better. And when we can get it so that our digital media and the stuff we're doing on stage stops behaving like this and starts behaving like this, I'm telling you, I've seen it. It will blow our minds, and it will blow our audience's minds. Because it's what's missing. We've got fantastic digital content. We already have fantastic literature, fantastic musicians. We just need them to act like ballet, where they're moving in time and saying something that's now and current. So I would say, as we move into the future, by the way, I don't know what happened to these slides. We're missing another one. I'm supposed to be introducing the second half of my talk right now. That slide doesn't appear to be here. But this is, as we move into the future, what does visual music look like as we move ahead? And I would say that we've hit a critical mass just recently. Equipment costs have come down, which makes it possible for smaller ensembles to do more. Audience response can't be argued. Bugs Bunny at the Symphony is in its 25th anniversary. George Doherty's gone all over the world playing Bugs with orchestras. For their 25th anniversary season, they'll be with the New York Phil in May. They sold out 3 shows in a month and now have just about sold out a 4th Thursday show. I've also heard it said that Video Games Live, in terms of ticket sales, is one of the best performing live stage shows that has ever been. It's bringing new audience people in the door by the thousands. We can have a conversation about whether that really advances the art or not, but you can't deny that it is, the audiences love it. They respond very well. The Great Recession has a part to play in this because I come from Minneapolis. I saw the orchestral turmoil that came out of the Great Recession close hand, and if we are moving past that era, I think one of the residuals is administrations and boards who kind of look at the world with slightly different glasses now and say where there was serious resistance to this kind of technology in the past, now there just can't be. It sells tickets, we need new audiences, you are going to do a couple of new media shows a year, and that's just driven by economics. And I think I've seen a new sense from conductors in the last 2 years also. It used to be, I talked to a conductor and the response would be, yeah, there's that visual music thing happening over there, and that's cool, that's interesting. Now when I talk to conducters, a lot of time the reaction is, I feel like I need to be part of that. How do I do it? How do I incorporate that into my work? That's a big change. Now I have to find, these slides. There's where we want. So we've hit a critical mass. This is from the League of American Orchestras conference last June in Seattle. This is Alan Brown, principal with Wolf Brown and Associates, giving the closing keynote address. Wolf Brown and Associates is one of the nation's leading arts researchers. So his address covered the entire spectrum of what's happening in the orchestral world. And this is one segment from the address that he gave.
The greatest hope for engaging a new generation of young people in classical music, I believe, lies in the frontier of music visualization. A number of orchestras right now are exploring this frontier, but there's an entirely new hybrid form of artistic expression yet to be discovered.
A new hybrid form of musical expression yet to be discovered. I think those are pretty telling words. We're just at the beginning of this. It's what we see today is not what's going to be here tomorrow. So if it's coming and if there's change happening, it presents the question, something's going to change, what's going to change? Is the orchestra going to change? I don't put this slide up here to be provocative because my answer is yes and no. There's plenty of room for orchestras that want to remain with a largely traditional profile. But the picture is of Alarm Will Sound, a new music ensemble from New York that has built an entirely new identity for itself around what technology can do. The answer is yes or no. Orchestras, some will change, some will remain largely unchanged and only use media every once in a while. Here's a more provocative slide. Something's going to change. Is it possible that the film industry might change? If you read the italicized quote, every major art form experiences a transformational change every century or so, give or take a half a century. And I'm not talking about audiences' tastes changing. I'm talking about stuff that really makes you look at your business plan and say, this isn't working anymore. Stuff like the Pope used to fund me. All of a sudden that dried up and now it's aristocrats funding me. That'll make you look at your business plan and say, okay, something needs to change. I can't write the same music anymore. The film industry is 100 years old, and it may be forced to look at transformational change in the near future. And before you say, that's crazy, you're way out in left field, let's get them off the stage and find somebody else, I'm not sure what happened here, but This is supposed to be, we'll try it, maybe it's still there. This is supposed to be a film called Visitors from 2013. And if you look at who produced it, this is produced by Steven Soderbergh. That's the same guy that produced Erin Brockovich. It's the same guy that produced Ocean's 11. It's the same guy that produced Traffic. And now it's the guy who produced Visitors 2013. The cool thing about this is it was never intended. It was created, conceived, and produced to never be seen in a traditional film screening. It's written for orchestra and cinema, premiered by the Toronto Symphony as part of the Toronto Film Festival. And in advance of its premiere, the producers actually went on record in writing saying that Visitors is an attempt to eventize film. So Steven Soderbergh recognizes that we have something that he can't have. We have the live event. It's not just the recording industry that's worried about copyright infringement and MP3 and file sharing. It's also now the film industry that's saying the only sure way to make a buck anymore is with a live event. And this is Steven Soderbergh saying, what does that look like? I'm not sure it's going to play. It didn't play before. You would never confuse it with the latest Hollywood blockbuster. It's art film, but it is unbelievably powerful. And although the film itself is powerful, I think the existence of the film is even more powerful. This is a Hollywood A-lister saying, what does this look like if we make an event out of a film? I think the existence of that film creates a couple of just mind-blowing questions. In the future, where is Hollywood going to invest its resources? Is it possible that they're going to look for it in other places? In the future, is Hollywood going to find some new revenue streams? And if it does, is it possible that some of those revenue streams exist in your hall? And in the future, where are Americans going to access their cinematic experience? Intended to be provocative. There's no guarantee anything's going to happen here. I just think it's fascinating that a guy like Steven Soderbergh would put his money behind a project that was never meant for your mainstream cinema. Fascinating. So, a couple of pot shots about the future. Number one, there's a new generation of software coming if we demand it. If we as conductors put our foot down and say, enough, I want to be a conductor, don't make me be a human metronome. I think a new generation of software is coming that can figure workflow. I'm not suggesting Ion Concert Media is the only one that's going to provide those kind of tools. I'm not suggesting Mosaic is the only tool like that. It would be nice, but I'm not going to suggest that. It's just that if we insist on it, we just need to have software developers come at it from our perspective, not their perspective. Second one is an interesting one. The day is coming when technology is just going to be another instrument on stage. Your first clarinet's reed breaks 5 bars before the solo. That's catastrophic. That's like stop the concert, soak the reed, and start over again. Catastrophic. Except we have contingencies on how to deal with that. They grab the second clarinet, play, and then they worry about their reed. So contingencies for technology to make it not so scary, but they need to be developed. If they don't exist now, we need to figure out what they are, and then it becomes not so scary. And technology as an instrument on your stage, don't underestimate the power of this thing. People who use this to replicate violin are paddling up the wrong river, because this violin is like the top of the food chain in terms of artistry and craftsmanship. It will never be replicated or anything close to it. But if you use this to do things that traditional instruments can't do, and you do it in an artistic way, the power here is mind-boggling. There's new stuff coming that we can't even imagine. So technology as a friend, as an artistic partner is coming. And then that says, what happens tomorrow on content? Number one thing I have to say about this is what you see today is not what you're going to see tomorrow. All of this trend about Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and The Barbarian, and all of these big iconic films that are such big business now. To me, that does feel like a trend because there's nothing artistic really about it. It was meant to be done in a cinema, it should be done in a cinema. The future is all around brand new stuff that's been written for this new art form, like, Romain, are you in the room? Romain must be here, right? There he is. Can you stand up for a second? This is Romain Payot from France. He's the composer for the Big Sparrow, which will be premiered tomorrow. Thank you, Romain. He's written a score that matches that film perfectly. It's exceptionally well written. You can ask Ricardo. I think Ricardo would agree. An exceptionally well written score, exceptionally fun to play. I'd love to conduct it myself. And it was written for the film. So we're not taking Beethoven and layering visuals on top of Beethoven. We're moving into the future, building a brand new repertoire of digital media or other technology stuff that meets our audience where they live today. There's a learning curve. Composers, filmmakers, and us as producers all have, I think, a rather steep learning curve. We're good at this. We've been doing this now for a decade or more, this layered technology event. When we start doing this kind of a blended technology event, the learning curve, I think, gets very steep. What does that mean? I've seen conductors use Mosaic in rehearsal, and by the time of the concert, they understand that they're in control of the film, and they completely reinterpret their score because they understand that they can say something just a little bit nuanced and different in the score by the way they conduct. That's powerful stuff. That implies that there's going to be an entirely new way, that implies that there's going to be new content that we can't even imagine today. Content creators are waking up to the opportunity. We have filmmakers from all over the world asking us how they can get involved in what we're working on. And Ion Concert Media, one more shameless plug, we took our software around the country and we found out that conductors loved it, but they said, it's useless to me unless you have the content to go along with it. So we're building an online resource, which is content that somebody else produced, and now it's been sitting on a shelf for years or whatever, and now it's in our library. We might, for example, Pictures at an Exhibition. Eventually we might have 12 films for Pictures at an Exhibition. You as a conductor can go to the website, look at all 12, find one that fits your theme, your personal style, pick it, rent it from us for a fraction of the cost of producing your own content. When you're done using it, the license gets over, the software kind of locks it out, and we move on. And that's all I have to say about that, because it's not supposed to be a sales pitch, but it was clear as we went around the country and talked to conductors that content is the thing. Content is very important. I've got just an example of some of the films. We're 1 month old. Our library is not that big yet, but that's an example. That's just a little bit of a taste of the kind of titles we have in our library. In the interest of time, I know it's been a long day, I'm going to skip through a couple of these now. In fact, make this. No, we don't want that. There we go. So the conclusion is, it's possible that we can have technology that integrates with your workflow. Visual music is not just a passing trend, it's going to be here for a while, and participation in that trend is becoming easier. My last slide is next steps that you can take. My first suggestion is to get involved and help us experiment. There's a learning curve that needs to happen. We don't have all of the answers. Help us experiment. Help us figure out what the best practices are in this new art form. Give Mosaic a try. It's 1 month old. Please download it, take a look at it, and tell us what you like, what you don't like. We want it to be a tool that is as easy and perfect for you to use as it can be. And I'm just one guy. I don't have all the answers. So tell us what you like. And tell us what you want for content. We've got, like I said, we've got content creators all over the world that want to create content. But we need it to be stuff that is most useful. It's a really... One fascinating concept that we deal with in the company is it possible that there becomes a core repertoire of digital media the same way that there's a core repertoire of music? So for example, 12 pictures at an exhibition titles that we carry in the library. Is it possible that there's like 1 or 2 of those that become like the globally accepted, you really want to have a punch and do pictures at an exhibition, well, these are the ones that you pick, and there becomes an economy of scale because so many people are using that title, and there also becomes maybe audiences like the familiar, so this is the one film that audiences respond to the best. I don't know, there might be a core repertoire that develops of digital media. And please do join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the world live concert premiere of Doom Spiro, a film that was produced by students at an animation school in France. Never been seen live in concert by anyone. Tomorrow will be the first chance. The orchestra's playing it very well, and I'm having a ball. So I hope I see you all there to help share that premiere. And with that, I'll say thank you, and if there's any time for questions left, I can answer some questions.